All right, continuing with the topic of Moshe's birth. In our previous video, we spoke about Pshat of Moshe's birth and the sort of literary features of the three heroines. In this unit, we went back with another look at the same story, but our focus this time was the world of Rashi and the Midrash. So we're going to be reading some Rashi here. And if you remember this handout we gave out in class, this identified the various comments of Rashi's that we wanted to discuss. So first of all, we're told by Rashi when a Levite man takes the daughter of Levi, in other words, when Amram takes Yocheved, Parush hayam mimena mipnei gzerat Paro. Amram had separated from her due to Paro's decree, v'chazar v'achzira v'asav likuchin shniyim, and he then took her back. Likuchin literally lakach is to take, but we mentioned already Lakachat Isha just means to get married, to take a wife, to marry a woman. So Amram did the Kuchin Shniyim, second marriage, after his original marriage. Now, why would he have separated from her? So Rashi just hints here that he was concerned about the decree of Paro. So presumably Amram said, I don't want to have a bunch of kids with my wife who are then going to get murdered. I'd rather just separate from her and not have to deal with the horror of my child potentially being murdered. And obviously at some point he changed his mind because the decree is still in effect. There's still a Gzerat Parah going on, but now they are married and have a kid. So Rashi gives us this information. He doesn't really explain the full background behind it. But we asked in class, what is it in the Pshat of the Psukim that triggered this? Right? Before we get to the deeper meaning of these Midrashim, every Midrash has what I like to call the hook. Right, the thing in the pasuk that it's hooking onto, that it's latching onto, some irregularity that stands out, where it says X, Y, and Z is bothering me. Let me hang on that, and through resolving that, get to some deeper backstory or some further information or further insight. So over here, it seems the issue in the Pshat is that a guy from Levi comes, marries a wife. Let's assume that's the first marriage. They get married, and then she gets pregnant and has a kid. So that's going to be their first kid, right? But this can't be their first kid. First of all, in this story, we're told that Achoto, his older sister, is involved. So Moshe already has an older sister. We know that, in fact, he actually has both an older sister and an older brother. And if we look later on in the book of Shemot, we even know in the case of the older brother just how much older he was. Right? If we go to the end of, oops, I think I went a little too far ahead. Here in Perek Zayin, Pasuk Zayin, we're told when Moshe and Aaron go before Paro, Moshe ben 20 shana, Aaron ben 3 u'shmanim shana. So when Moshe is 80, Aaron is 83. So Aaron's 3 years older. So we know for a fact that at this time, let's go back to our Perek, we know for a fact that at this time, there's already a 3-year-old boy, as well, or maybe a 2-year-old boy when they get married, who's going to turn 3 during the pregnancy, perhaps, and a daughter who's even older than that. So what are you telling me that Amram and Yocheved got married, and then, as if it's the next thing that happened, they have this baby boy Moshe? And so this midrash that Rashi is quoting, this comes from the Gemara in Masechet Sota, it resolves this issue by saying, you know what, when it says here that Amram went and took Yocheved, and married Yocheved, it means he remarried Yocheved. They were married. They had Aaron and Miriam. In fact, we maybe understand a bit better then why Amram is so eager to separate during this decree. It's not just that he doesn't want his son to die. If he were childless, maybe he'd feel like, what choice do I have? I have to risk having a kid. Maybe I'll be lucky and it'll be a girl and she won't be killed, or it'll be a boy and I can save him. But now that we know it's the remarriage, that they'd been previously married and had Aaron and Miriam, I understand Amram saying, look, I have a son and a daughter that I love, that are happy and healthy. What's it worth taking the risk of another kid where maybe now I'm going to have to deal with the horror of a child of mine being murdered by these evil Egyptians? Let's just raise the kids that we have. So that seems to be the hook, or the peculiarity or inconsistency or irregularity in the simple text that the Midrash is hanging itself on, is hooking onto. The fact that it seems like Amram and Yocheved get married and right away have Moshe, but we all know there were two older kids, is resolved by saying that they married once, had two kids, separated, Parush Haya Mimena, Amram separated from her, and then Chazar v'Hechsira, he went and took her back, and when he took her back, they right away had a kid named Moshe. So that answers question 1 on our sheet. Then question number 2, we further asked, what difficulty led Rashi to quote the Midrash on Perek Bet, Pasuk Bet. So what's that talking about? We're told in Pasuk Bet that Yocheved saw Moshe, Ki Tovhu, he was good. We're told Kshenolad, when Moshe was born, Nit Malei Kol HaBayit Kulo Or, the whole house filled with light. So why would Rashi say that? So the thing about this case is that there's not like a gap in the story, something in the story that doesn't make sense, like jumping from their marriage to their third kid. Here, it's that the word itself is genuinely unclear. We're not sure what it means to say that the kid was good. Now, we might think of other contexts where we see that something is good, and we see that lunch is good today, lunch is tasty today in the cafeteria. So by saying that, the implication is there are other days where maybe we also see lunch in the cafeteria and think lunch is not good. But here it's hard to interpret good in that way, because that would basically be saying that this mother, Yocheved, gave birth and so that her baby was good, as if lots of other mothers give birth and see that their baby is not good. And the reality is, show me a mother who thinks her baby's not good. In fact, I think we pointed out quickly, although we didn't read it in detail in class, that if you look in Rashbam, that's Rashi's grandson who's a Pshat guy, so assuming our browser doesn't crash, Rashbam basically raises this point. Rashbam is upset at people who say that the reason she tried to save Moshe is that she saw he was a good kid. Says Rashbam, I don't understand. Which mother thinks her kid is not a good kid? Okay, so my browser did crash, but we are back. Rashbam is very bothered by this. He looks at this phrase, she was good, and so they come a farish, the fisha ra'atu hitminatu. Anyone who would try to explain that maybe because she saw Moshe was good, that's why she wanted to save him. Shekeru shekola yoldot shekola vladot imotam rachmat alehem. That's sheker. That's completely false. It's absolute nonsense to say that only Yocheved saw her kid was good. Therefore, only Yocheved wanted to save her baby. Any kid, their mother has mercy on them, right? Any normal kid, their mother is going to want to save them. And for that matter, any normal kid, if you ask them, their mother, do you think your baby's good? Of course they're going to say their baby's good. They might say, no, my baby's not just good, my baby's amazing, my baby's awesome. So the Torah must be saying there's something more about Moshe than what a typical mother sees about her kid. So there are sort of non-miraculous rationalist ways to explain this. Rashbam himself suggests that Moshe just looks very healthy, and so Yocheved felt he's the type of baby who looks healthy enough, he'll survive something like what she does putting him in the basket. But the fact that at face value it seems absurd to just say that what's going on here is that Yocheved saw she had a good baby, as if, most mothers think they have bad babies. I think that's why Rashi feels compelled to cite this midrash, that there was something special about Moshe, the whole house filled with light when he was born. He wasn't just a typical good kid, he was a kid with a whole house filled with light. Let us continue. In Pasuk Gimel, in question 3, we are told about Pasuk Hey, that Paro sent Amata. She sent her Amma. So what does it mean she sent her Amma to take Moshe? If you click on the word Amata in alhatorah.org, let's hope this does not crash our browser, and here we go, looks like it's crashing it. What's going on today? Anyway, the word Amata means her Amma. What's an Amma? So there are two Hebrew words Amma, depending on the vowels. There's the word Amma, which means maid servant, and there's a word Amma, which means arm. So that seems to be what's going on here. There are these two words. So it's about Paro sent her maidservant or her arm. Says Rashi, What is it? At Amata, at Shivchata, she sent her maidservant. Rabotenu darshu lashon yad. It says in the Midrash, it says that she didn't send her maidservant, rather she sent her arm, that, she sent her arm out and it kind of kept going and going and getting longer and longer. So the way the Midrash describes this is about Paro extending her amma, her arm, lashon yad. We compared that to a video that I saw as a kid about Inspector Gadget that you see over here. Yeah, that takes me back to my childhood. So about Paro's arms extended like that, according to Rashi, citing Rabotenu Darshu, the way the rabbis interpreted it. But Rashi adds something over here. He says, wait a minute. Aval lefi diktuk lashon hakodesh haylo linaked amata. Look at the vowels over there. He says, if this were following the rules of Hebrew grammar and it really meant her arm, it should have said amata like that. Mem degesha, with a dot, a dagesh, in the mem. So if we look over here, I pointed this out. The word amma like this means a maidservant. The word amma with a patach under the aleph and a dot in the mem means an arm. So Rashi is pointing out that this midrash cannot be the simple interpretation of the pasuk. And so Rashi is taking sides here in this debate, saying that really it means she sent her maidservant rather than extending her arm. So what was the hook in the pasuk that enabled Rashi to even bother quoting this midrash, saying maybe it means arm? So first of all, we noted that in actual Sifrei Torah, there are no vowels, and so all we see is that word aleph mem he without any vowels. And we pointed out that in the time the midrash was written, in the time of Chazal, that was before the period of the Masoretes. This English word Masoret is from the Hebrew word Masorah. The Masoretes, the guardians of the Masorah, were people during the Gaonic period, that's after the time of the Gemara, but before the time of Rashi, who created a whole system of written vowels so that you could add vowels to a word like this and thereby conclude that it means, let's say, maidservant as opposed to arm. So in the time of the Gemara, when they're making this drasha, they're saying, look, the word looks kind of ambiguous. It could mean arm or it could mean maidservant. They had a reading tradition, an oral tradition, that it meant maidservant in this case. Rashi already lives after that. Rashi lives in a time when they have written vowels, and so he can say, after the Masoretes put the vowels in, so I know looking at the vowels that the vowels for her arm are not the same as the vowels in our pasuk. But in any event, that's one reason for this midrash, that the word itself looks ambiguous. The other reason I believe for this midrash, which I think one of the students pointed out in class, is that earlier on in the parak, Moshe, about Paro's maidservants are referred to as na'arot. So it's a little bit interesting that Torah switched from the word na'arot, maidservants plural, using the word na'ara, like young women, to the word amata, singular, her maidservant. So from her na'arot to her amma seems like a bit of a shift. It could just be word variation, right? In English class, they sometimes tell you not to use the same word again and again, just for the sake of good writing. But that prompts the midrash to say maybe amata here means something else. And the last midrash that we looked at, that Rashi quoted here, pertains to this phrase, vatiftach vatir'ehu et hayeled, which literally means she opened the basket, vatir'ehu, she saw him, et hayeled, the kid. So she saw him, the kid. Now what does that mean? The simple understanding of this pasuk is that the word et is left untranslated, as it normally is. It just tells you which thing was seen. And the hu refers to him, meaning Moshe. So she saw Moshe, she saw him, i.e. the boy, and then the pasuk would continue from there. But the rabbis interpreted it as if she saw him, the capital H, meaning with the boy. She saw Hashem, him with a capital H, with the boy, interpreting hu as referring to God, and interpreting et as meaning with, which it sometimes can mean. So Rashi is aware the simple meaning of the pasuk is that she saw him, i.e. the boy, but he also quotes this midrash. We then took a step back and asked, what do we see from all of this? I will answer that in a subsequent unit.